Hey, seasoned athletes. I'm Robin Leggett, and this is episode 69 of the Seasoned Athlete Podcast. Seasoned Athlete is your home for inspiring stories and motivational advice from competitive athletes representing a wide variety of sports who all share one common bond. They are all over 40 years old. We are here to prove one story at a time that age does not have to prevent you from achieving your bold athletic and fitness goals. If you like what you hear, I would love it if you'd subscribe, share with your friends, and leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And if you really love us, like really love us, you can support our ability to bring inspirational stories to you by way of either a one-time donation or by becoming a monthly sponsor. Just go to seasonedathlete.me and click on one of the Support Seasoned Athlete buttons to help support this DIY independent podcast. Today, I'll be talking to Kyra Oliver, author of 8 Ways of Being: How to Motivate Yourself to Live Happy and Free Every Day. Kyra is on a mission to help as many people as possible live a lifestyle that feels good. And her book details 8 simple yet incredibly effective actions you can take to do just that. In our interview, we talk about the tragic event that would eventually set her down this path and would help her discover her athletic potential as an endurance athlete. Kyra just exudes positivity and drops so many nuggets and inspiration in our conversation. So sit back, relax, and take notes as needed because you're about to get fired up, seasoned athletes. Here is Kyra Oliver. Hi, Kyra.
Hi.
Are you ready to drop some seasoned athlete knowledge on our listeners today?
I sure am.
That's good to hear. You are Kyra Oliver, author, motivational speaker, wellness influencer, entrepreneur, philanthropist, lifestyle coach, fitness instructor, fitness director at a 5-star health and fitness spa, and endurance athlete. That's a lot. You've been featured in V Magazine, Parents Magazine, and Runner's World Magazine, among others. And in addition to publishing your own book, 8 Ways of Being: How to Motivate Yourself to Live Happy and Free Every Day, which can be found on Amazon, you were featured in a new book, Graced by Grit, about your resilience. I can't wait to talk about all that. On the athletic side, you have competed in numerous races to include several Boston marathons, New York Marathon, 50-mile ultras, Ironman races, and much more, hitting many podium spots and some overall podium wins. Wow. Okay. Is there anything vital, personally, professionally, or from your athletic life that you'd like to take a quick moment to fill in?
Wow. Thank you for that introduction. That was really appreciated. And I don't know. I just want you to guide me along this because I guess I just want to throw out there that my athletics and fitness probably saved my life. We'll see where that goes.
Okay. We definitely want to see where that goes.
Yeah.
But first, I'm going to ask the big question that I ask all my guests, and that is, what is your age at this moment in time?
I get to be 52 right now.
I love that. I get to be 52. We always say, we own our age here. And I get some like I'm, this and this, 8 years young, but I love that I get to be this. And I think we're going to hear why you feel that way as we continue this interview.
Yeah.
So let's start from the beginning. When did you start playing sports and what did your early athletic life look like?
I was active in high school and that sort of thing, but I came from a small town and my little town, there wasn't even track or anything. And honestly, I didn't quite know really what that was because of that. So my athletics really came at a later time in my life. And as I just mentioned, I'm super grateful for that because I'm pretty sure it's one of the things that saved my life. So for me, I'm going to say, I believe it was around 35 when I kind of started delving into serious athletics and kind of figured out running was my first love and kind of starting to figure out, whoa, this is amazing. And I'm digging these endorphins and the camaraderie that comes with it.
Those really are 2 big things as someone who has become an endurance athlete myself. The community and the endorphins are unlike anything else and can be a lifesaver. So you have now mentioned twice that athletics have saved your life. Can you get more specific as to why that is?
Yeah, I was had a full service marketing and branding agency for a number of years, and I had a team. And one day I was sitting in my office and I was sobbing. I'm sitting next to my business coach, Laura, and Laura says, "Kyra, you know what? You need to start moving." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, you need to start exercising. I had gone through a tragedy, and that's one of the reasons I was sobbing. There was a lot of pressure and stress. And then additionally, my team, which was amazing, some of them were being sought after by headhunters. And I was a small creative boutique. We were award-winning, amazing, a company. But, these headhunters were looking for bigger companies, which means they could offer substantially more money. And I probably seemed a little unstable at the time because I just went through this tragedy. And I'll mention the tragedy because I think it'll kind of make things make sense. But I'd lost my 4.5-month-old little boy and to sudden infant death syndrome. So I'm sitting there and I'm sobbing, and Laura says, "Hey, when's the last time you exercised?" And I'm like, "Laura, it's all I can do to get out of bed every day." And she says, "You need endorphins." So that is really where things kind of kicked off. And no joke, I started walking and walking faster. And then next thing you know, I'm running 5 to 6 miles several days a week. And never knew I was a runner.
Right. I think that story is familiar to a lot of us. Like nobody knows they're a runner until they become a runner, really. That was my story too. Mine was not based in tragedy necessarily, but it's like you spend your life telling yourself a story that you are not a runner and you will never be a runner. And then you just take those steps, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, the body adapts, and yes, you can be, and you are a runner. Yeah. We'll get to the tragedy and the loss of your son, because I think that's an important part of your story. But something that stood out to me in what you just told me, because I think it can be familiar for a lot of people, and that's just being in a really high stress life situation. And especially women, I think, like being in a high stress life situation where there's a lot of pressure, and it may look like yours and it may not look like yours, but that is often a reason for people to not move. Like that's the story they tell themselves and the excuse they tell themselves to not move. So can you go on about how introducing movement changed everything for you and how important it is?
Yeah. One piece of information that I think I want to share, and I'm so happy that I decided to start sharing this, because I think it helps those that, again, as you said, I think that this would never be possible for me, is I actually lived a somewhat unhealthy life for a number of years. And that unhealthy side involved, I really hate that I have to say this, but I'm doing it for all of you listeners out there. I was a smoker. Mm-hmm. So I smoked cigarettes, and I enjoyed my wine just maybe a little more than I should have. And in any case, so, the whole running thing was, I never thought that I could do that, or that would be a part of my life whatsoever. I'd see these runners down the road, and a lot of them, clearly I now know they were doing really long runs because they had their water belts on and that sort of thing. But I kept wanting to be one of those guys, and I was like, I'm never going to be there. But after starting this movement, I started realizing how amazing I was feeling. So my health completely changed. Of course, I stopped smoking and even stopped drinking for a long time. I mean, now I'll have some, glass of wine with dinner. I'm good with that, but it's not, a critical part of my life anymore. Thank goodness. And it's been long gone. And I just started moving. I started feeling good. I started, meeting with friends. People were inviting me to come run with them. I mean, this whole community thing, I'm like, wow, this is phenomenal. And I just started feeling this sense of love, unconditional love almost. It's kind of like what runners do for each other, or athletes of many sorts. It's that unconditional love that you feel, that understanding that I've been there, that sense of I've been there before. I know how it feels to be new at this and people wanting to share and to help you. So it just really became a beautiful example of how I kind of wanted to live life. I needed to move myself to a new place and a new way of thinking. And I think that this was the beginning of that.
Yeah. It's so interesting that what you talked about, and thank you for your honesty about, I think it's important that you're honest talking about how you're a former smoker and you drank a lot, because that's real. That's what people experience. Yeah. And on the other side, it's as if there's something addicting as well about feeling good. Yeah. And wanting to continue to feel good, because, my husband and I, it's the same way. It's like once we started really getting into an athletic lifestyle, we both do obstacle races, and the more and more we got into it, the less we wanted to, eat unhealthy food, and because we didn't, it would make us, it would almost compound not feeling good. You eat a little bit and then you feel crappy on your next run. So you don't want that feeling, you don't want to feel hungover. Like that's for me personally, as a feeling in my mid 40s at 40, almost 45 years old, that I just don't care to experience anymore,
Absolutely.
It's like you just reach a point where it's like you would just much rather feel good and do the things that make you feel good.
Yeah. And even when, it's hard for a lot of people to understand when you're like, hey, I'm all about going out Friday night. Can we eat dinner at 5? Yes. Okay, 6 at the latest. But, I got to be somewhere in the morning, and that's super important because it feels so doggone good.
Right. Yeah. I'm going to bed at 8 because I'm getting up at 4, to get out and run. Like this is how I want to live now.
Yeah. It's a lifestyle. Yeah.
It's a lifestyle. And for some, it's, if my 20-year-old self could look at me now, she'd be like, what? But it's how we want to live now. And it's different and it feels amazing. Yeah. So let's go back to the loss of your son, because that it wasn't an immediate catalyst, but it seems that it led to the catalyst of you not just wanting to live healthy for yourself, but wanting to help others. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, for sure. So, of course, upon losing him and seriously saying, what am I going to do? I don't know what I'm going to do, period. And that's why I just became so grateful that running came into my life, that Laura that day said, you got to exercise. You're going to have to move, because I wasn't even thinking about that. And I needed some way to cope. I needed some way to feel that there was hope in my life. And upon losing him, with the support of friends and family, we immediately decided that we wanted to help others by, sharing information and helping educate them and that sort of thing. So the two things that kind of happened that really became therapeutic for me was, getting into running and that camaraderie and the friends that came with that and the community. And then getting into philanthropy and starting a foundation in honor of my son and trying to share educational information so that, I just didn't want anybody else to go through this. It's intense stuff, and I'm grateful I'm willing to talk about it because, and the whole reason behind that book is that I just want to help other people. I want to give them hope. And, the beautiful part of what's happened is this book isn't just for somebody who has gone through that intense of a tragedy. It can be for somebody who's like, I'm in a rut and I just need to get out of this freaking rut. And so it can be on that level too. And I just ultimately found myself in a pretty dark place of kind of, not a lot of that hope just wasn't there. And I was confused and I thought, gosh, am I not meant to live a joyful life? And it was a pretty scary feeling. And then I finally decided, you know what? I don't believe that. I'm not going to believe that. That's not true. I too am worthy. But in having said that to myself and acknowledging that, I knew that there was a lot of work to be done. So I started doing that work, and I started researching and reading and, getting involved in my community more. Of course, the running and continuing that, and ended up just going through these pretty amazing steps that brought that joy back into my life. So, and then I was like, gosh, I got to share this with people. This is a big deal. Like, it was that scary. And if I can help somebody else to either never even feel that fear, or if they do, have a place to turn with the pretty, quick information of steps that they can take, that's why I put it out there. And so I chose to be vulnerable about it. And, I just hope I'm helping somebody.
Yeah. And let's get into the book a little bit. I'm actually holding it in my hand. 8 Ways of Being, How to Motivate Yourself to Live Happy and Free Every Day. What I love about this book, like when I was reading this book, it's basically eight simple concepts that if we embrace will help us live our best lives. And as someone who is happy, or, I consider myself happy and healthy and active and in a place of helping people as well. Like the concepts were very familiar to me, but I can imagine someone reading this book that's in that hole that you were talking about. And I'm going back to not necessarily, a deep tragedy, but just overburdened, overstressed, just can't figure out how to be happy, living for others without taking care of themselves. And that is just such a familiar story, especially among women, I think. And so I think, having a tool like this in this book is really a tool, because it's not just something to read. There's a workbook and a journal, and you can actually work through these concepts in this book, which I think really helps people actualize and helps these concepts sink in and helps people, be able to take action. I think this can be such a helpful tool for people who are in those situations. That's my take from the book.
Thank you. Gosh. I mean, that's the whole intention, it's I wanted actionable steps and it's really, the information is nothing crazy. It's pretty logical thinking, but it's truly what I did. And I do every day. All of these things I do every day still. Like it's become a part of who I am. I really sat back and I started thinking about, okay, how do you want to live in this world? How do you want to be in this world? Who do you want to be? Not who do you want to be in terms of, hey, I want everybody to know me. No, not that. Who do I want to be in terms of an example in this world? That's when I started taking my head to that place, and that is why chapter 1, which is love, it's about love and kindness and being grateful. And it really wasn't until that component, that piece in my life started happening, did this all really come together.
Yeah, because I think without that, that's sort of a fundamental. Yeah. If you can't come from a place of love and come from a place of gratitude, you can't do any of the other stuff. Like you can't set goals. You can't think about, movement and eating well and dreaming big and things like that. The other concepts in the book, you have to have that fundamental piece nailed down. And that can be a hard thing for people. Yeah.
But it's pretty amazing when you start to practice it. It truly becomes a practice, and it then just becomes a part of you. And then this other beautiful thing happens, because we're human. So we're going to make mistakes. I make mistakes every single day, and I actually love it now because I learn so much every time I make a mistake. And I'm like, wow, instead of getting, upset about it, I'm actually like, wow, I'm so grateful and appreciative. And I know it sounds kind of corny, but it works. So, you embrace that. And I even embrace things all the way to the point of every time I run, I'm like, thank you for that run. Even if it wasn't my fastest run, or maybe I went 2 miles less than I meant to or wanted to, I'm still just super grateful that I get to be 52. I get to run, Wow. That's just amazing.
Yeah. I did an interview with somebody she was a veteran. And she spoke to something similar, and her point of view is, she because she's a war vet, she knows people and knew people who don't get to do this. You know, they didn't come home, or they lost limbs, or, you know, they don't get to do what she gets to do. And so she's always comes from a place of gratitude that I get to suffer. You know, I get to put myself in situations where I'm suffering. And even again, if you have a bad run or a bad race, you still, it's a privilege to get to do this to yourself, you know? And so those words really stuck with me, and it continues to stick with me. That it's like this is a privilege that we get to do. And I really love what you said about making mistakes, because that's something that I really cling on to as well. Like, every mistake is a learning moment. And I actually call it that. It's like, it's a learning moment. It's a learning opportunity rather than a mistake. Because we can learn something from mistakes, and we can learn something from failures every time. And that's why it's important to experience those things.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So let's talk about the newest book that you're featured in, Graced by Grit. What is it about, and how did you come to be included in it?
Yeah, so there is a company out here that makes athletic clothing, and they actually call Graced by Grit. Local company. So I live here in San Diego. They're in Solana Beach, and these two amazing women created this company. And I stopped by one day and trying on their clothes, checking out their boutique, and I just fell in love with their stuff and kind of looked into them a little bit, and I just found out that their whole philosophy is just so much about empowering women to be their best selves, to also just empower our community. They work a lot with the young girls as well, and just big, big hearts. And it just seemed to align with 8 Ways of Being and all of that. I reached out to them and asked if I could be an ambassador for them. And they said, yeah, we'd love to have you. They had my book, copies of my book for sale in their store. Different things were going on. They were supporting me. I was supporting them, sort of thing. Through that, I even had a book signing at their store. That was a lot of fun. And one day they reached out to me, and they said, hey, we're creating this book, and we're wanting to feature certain athletes in the community that we feel fits the Graced by Grit philosophy. And we think you're perfect for resilience. And so I'm like, yeah, let's do it. You know, so they put me in I'm the resilience chapter. And I appreciate that, because it has taken a great deal of resilience to deal with many, many things in my life. And of course, losing my son is number one, but there are a lot of other big things that happened too. And even setbacks in my athletics along the way that were challenging. And in any case, that's kind of how that happened. They've since merged with another company called Highlight. And they're, still doing great things, and they still have their Graced by Grit Foundation and that sort of thing, and still pushing their book. So they still exist, but just more from a nonprofit level. And then they're a part of Highlight now, but an amazing company, and just, similar philosophies. I like to try to align myself with similar philosophies out there. And it just seems to kind of make sense when we can, all support each other.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I totally agree with that as well. Let's dig into resilience a little bit for this next section here. So I want to talk about some of the highs and lows of your athletic and racing history. So can you take us back to what you consider to be maybe your worst, your hardest, your most difficult race or competitive event?
Wow.
I know.
Wow. Because there's 2 different things that are popping in my head right now. And one is definitely competitive race. And I'll let you guide me, and we can even talk about both if you want. And then the other is difficulties that I found myself in due to some poor decisions I was making. So maybe I'll talk about most difficult race. There have been a lot. I mean, I've done a few full Ironman races. And before that, of course, my biggest love is running, and I'm now an ultra runner. it's just really hard to define, like the Boston Marathon, I've ran, several times, and that one and New York. It's funny. I got a 1 second PR after I ran the New York Marathon, and then I ran the Boston Marathon for my second time. And I got a 1 second PR better at Boston. I was excited about that. Hey,
I'd be pretty excited about that.
So that, those are hard races because during that time, I was just a super hardcore runner on the level of marathoning on the road, and that's a lot of pounding on the body. I was super hardcore. I ran everything fast, as fast as I could. I'm not the fastest in the world, but I was, doing all right. And, I did very well with the smaller races. I was hitting podiums, and some, a couple of smaller races I might get an overall win of some sort. Boston's a really big race. So I was definitely, at that time, I was in, that nice little percentile there, but, that's a big race. And so, it's hard to get an overall win there.
Right. Well, yeah.
If I did, that would be my career, right? So, but yeah, so those are really, really hard. But then, taking it to Ironman, whoa, it's like, I remember doing my first half Ironman, and it wasn't Ironman brand, but it was an Ironman distance. And I actually, I almost hyperventilated. Is that the right word? Hypothermia. Sorry.
Oh, that's different.
Hypothermia. Maybe I almost hyperventilated too. Who knows?
Right.
I almost got hypothermia from getting, and the water was really cold. Mm-hmm. I was a total wimp when it came to swimming in a wetsuit at that time. But here's why I didn't have one on is 2 days before the water was really, really warm. And now it's funny because I am all about wearing the wetsuit. I'm much more seasoned. This is many years ago, like first one, right? But I'm much more seasoned now, and I want the wetsuit because it makes me faster, because it makes you more buoyant. But in any case, that was my first one. So that was pretty difficult because I was really freezing when I came out of that water, and then I had to get onto a bike, and it was very windy. And so it took me about 15 miles on that bike to get warmed up.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do anything. I wasn't making good decisions. Probably shouldn't have been on that bike.
Right.
But I was. And, I'm thinking after that, I'm like, oh, and I'm going to go do a full one. What? But I did. And I just trained smartly. I, got into it. I learned more. I did the work. I put in the time. So difficult wise, a full Ironman is definitely super difficult. And I'm sure those distances, but it's 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike, and then, a 26.2 mile run, a marathon after that. Mm-hmm. And so that was really difficult. Boulder was probably, I did the Boulder Ironman. That was probably one of my most difficult in that category. The elevation, I think, got me, and I felt sick the entire marathon. And so that wasn't so good. But, if we go into the ultras, I would have to say that my 50 miler at Big Bear, gosh, it's so hard because there was a really tough 50K that I worked really hard on. And I'm actually about to do that race again in 2 weeks. And I got third overall female in that race. And I was really proud of that. And for somebody so I was 50 when I did that. I got to tell you this part, Robin, you're going to love this because we're talking about, some more seasoned athletes here. I come across that finish line. I was actually in second place up until about mile 22. And I knew the girl was close. And she passes me. And as you know, in that community, she's super nice. She goes, come on, stay with me. I'm like, I'm trying. And I couldn't quite stay with her, but I still managed third with 20 minutes to spare from fourth place. So that was pretty cool.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, I was so honored. Didn't expect that, and I come across the finish line and I'm like, wow, this is so cool. I go straight to the two women that got first and second. And I said, high five. I got one question for you guys. How old are you? And they were 20 years younger.
Wow.
That's my proudest moment in racing, probably, because I'm just like, I just think it's a good example for us as more seasoned athletes, men, but definitely women, to know that, guys, if you put in that work and you're enjoying it and whatever, and there's also the sufferfest that goes on with it, but it's pretty amazing what you can accomplish.
Yeah, I love that. And a common theme that I heard through all of these races and all these stories, and you actually answered my next question, which was what's your favorite race? And it sounds like that one might have been it.
Definitely. I have one. Yeah, that's definitely.
Yeah. But it was resilience, or, it's resilience. And I think as we get older, if we want to compete, we have to be resilient, because you're keeping up with the kids,
Yeah.
But you talked about borderline hypothermia and altitude sickness and all of these things. And yet the common thread is you finished all these races. You did not give up. And even in your favorite race, you may have dropped down to third, but you did not give up, and you had a nice, comfortable lead on the person behind you. So it just shows, what we can do at any age, but resilience is kind of a key thing.
You are so right. And we all have those voices. During the 50 miler at Big Bear last year, I got third in my age group in that one. It took me, I think it was 12 and a half hours, something like that, close to 13. And basically I get to, I think it was the 50K mark. And I said to myself, you could finish right here. I mean, it's 50K. Are you happy with that? And then, of course, immediately I'm like, nope, you are going to finish the 50 miler. That's what you signed up for. You can do it. And I also use these tricks. I started asking myself questions like, are you sick? No. Are you hurt? No. You know what I mean? Like, you ask questions. Can you finish? Yeah. Then you're going to finish, and we really have to treat ourselves like that sometimes. Like, okay, let's go. Right.
Like, you've got these voices that are telling you things, and you just have to ask some logical questions.
Yeah.
To shut them up.
Okay.
Yeah. So what kinds of unique challenges do you find that you are encountering as someone in your 50s competing at this high level that you compete at?
Wow. Challenges. There's a lot, I think that I do find that pace is my biggest challenge right now. I'm wanting to keep that pace going. I'm getting a little older, and I just have to pay attention to my body. And what that might mean is, you need to rest a little more. Today might be that day where you take a little bit easier day on your workouts, because it's going to serve you well when you need that pace, in that long run on Saturday or whatever it may be. You've got, I because the 50K is coming up, I do need to try to hit about 22, 23 miles this Saturday. And I know it's going to be tough, but, I just try to prepare for that by getting more rest, setting reasonable goals, and just still trusting that process. Yep. My head starts to talk to me as I'm getting a little older, like, you're not quite as fast. And, it's, it's just a little bit of a challenge, but I just try to trust the process. And then also remember, this is one of those other things about as we age up, we get more opportunities to actually hit podiums.
Yes.
Because we're not the only ones that are feeling this. So I really focus on trying to have a really, healthy diet, get the sleep, do the best that I can, and just pay attention to what your body's telling you. I mean, I had just on my left ankle, I noticed yesterday, I'm like, why is it swollen? Nothing hurts. Nothing hurts. So normally, what would I do? It's swollen, nothing hurts. I'm going to go run anyway. And I, decided, no, we're going to back off. And even though nothing hurts, this is your opportunity to make sure nothing happens here. Nothing gets worse. And so I backed off, and the swelling went down pretty quickly, and I'm good to go.
Yeah.
So I'm better at paying attention to what my body needs, but definitely focusing on that rest and that diet and keeping that in check. And then just trying to not overdo it like I used to back in the day when I wouldn't do recovery runs. You know, every run was a hard run. You know what I mean? And now it's like, no, you got to do a recovery run today because you're going to run harder tomorrow. Or maybe you're going to swim and bike today. No running at all today. That's another thing I changed is I don't run every single day like I used to. I run 5 days a week now.
Yeah. And so, adding in swimming, cycling, and recovery.
Yeah.
So you talked about the opportunity to podium as a benefit. What other unique benefits do you find you're experiencing as a more seasoned athlete?
I believe that what's happening to me now is the appreciation of what I'm getting to do more than in the past. So in the past, it was so much about being competitive and hardcore and not, I mean, it was great. It was fantastic. But I feel like when I was younger, that perhaps I was missing out on some other really beautiful parts of life and shared experiences because I was just so hardcore. And again, that was great. It served me well. It's what I wanted to do then. But, you know, for now, it's like I really enjoy other things in my life. So I'm trying to balance it more.
And just having the ability to recognize the need for that.
Exactly.
I totally get that. It's like, it's easy when you get into, especially endurance sports, which require so much time devoted to training that you just kind of get completely consumed by that.
Yeah.
And so to be able to kind of take a step back and think about the other parts of your life that, you don't want to become so consumed that you neglect other areas of importance in your life. So
I think I did that. Not intentionally to hurt anybody or not pay attention to anyone, but I'm just seeing that life is just so precious.
Yes.
And being into something is amazing. As I've noted, it's saved my life. It's been phenomenal. And it's a lifestyle for me. I will always be in fitness. I will always be eating healthy. That is how I love to live and I choose to live. But I'm also seeing that I need to make sure I'm making time to share my story as much as I can, because my whole purpose of sharing that story in the first place is to help other people. If I'm running all the time, how are you going to help? Story.
Right.
And so that's kind of where I am in my life, is trying to find that balance. And that's why, I'm just so grateful for this opportunity too, because I truly, it is so much easier, Robin, to just hide and not tell the story. Way easier. Right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But that's not, it's so in my heart. It is so deeply ingrained in my heart that the thought of sharing this story and helping other people, it won't go away. And, somebody said something to me the other day that I thought was pretty powerful. And it's really helping me, actually. They said, this may sound harsh, but you're stealing from other people that you can help by not telling your story more. I'm like, whoa. That's deep.
Right.
But it's true. And not purposefully, but isn't that why I did this in the first place? Isn't that so? It's what's happening is I'm learning now to shift a little bit, keep my lifestyle of being that seasoned athlete and using what I know to perform the best I can, because I will not deny it. I still love to hit a podium and I will still try because I just dig it. But I want to balance this with making sure I'm getting my story out there because it might save somebody's life.
Yeah, absolutely. I talk about with the things I do, I run a gym, I compete in sports, I have this podcast, and I like to talk about how ultimately every day I just want to put good into the world. Like it boils down to just being as simple as that. Like I want to put good into the world. I want to know that at the end of my day, I made the world a little better than it was before, And so, and we all have our gifts. Like being able to do this podcast, I feel is my gift, my ability to find the people and bring out their stories. That's what I have to offer. That's what I can do. And I think your unique story is your gift, and you are, like your friend said, obligated to share that with the world. Like it's it's not really even a choice anymore,
You're so right. And so that mind shift, I mean, I'm right in the deep throes of that. And I'm going to go with it even further than I already have.
Yeah.
So, I'm just trying to listen to that voice, because it is a good voice. It's a positive voice, and just keep pushing it out there. I was a keynote speaker recently. It was awesome. Everybody in that audience, it was sold out, and everybody got a book, and hopefully they've shared the book and they've shared the story. And I just want to keep doing that as much as I can, because while the story stems from my experiences, this is to help other people, because like I said, it's easier to not do it, but I can't go that way. I've got to do what I can to make an impact and make a difference. Yeah.
It's easier to not do it, but it feels better to do it.
Way better. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about energy a little bit, because you seem to thrive on doing a lot of things. You're an entrepreneur, you're a coach, you're a trainer, you're a philanthropist, you're an endurance athlete. You're doing so many things. And we talk about making the time, making it a priority to make the time. But I think people might listen to that and be like, how does she have the energy? Like, how does she have the ability to do that? The energy, the drive, the grit, the resilience, as we talked about. How do you have all that to do all the things that you want to do?
Wow. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I do feel so full of energy. It is crazy. In fact, I'm a assistant fitness director at this really nice spa that I mentioned, and I'm really grateful that I am able to do this. And at that spa, I have to teach, and there might be any given day where I have to teach 4 or 5 classes, and on top of whatever training I might be doing. And I feel amazing, and I'm super happy. And the first thing I do actually when I get there on most days is I'm taking guests on a hike. And, it's got a little bit of elevation, and it's just super cool. It's interesting, though, that you say that, too, because people think I'm a little bit crazy that before I arrive there. So I get there at 6 a.m. Most mornings, and people think I'm crazy because I'll do a workout before I get there, which means I'm getting up at about 3:45, 3:50. Now, I did just say I try to get a lot of sleep. To do that, I do have to go to bed a little early. But I would rather do that and have that energy. But why I work out before I get there is because it gives me more energy. So taking care of myself, getting my workout in before I arrive at work, it allows me to get back. And I just thrive on that. Like, the energy just keeps coming. I don't sit down all day. I don't have a desire to. I feel amazing. And so I don't know. I think it's just a matter of just taking care of myself and sticking to it and sticking to my plan, recognizing, as I said before, hey, if you're tired, you need to rest a little bit more today, and just paying attention to my body. I think a lot of us athletes can admit that we're not that great at doing that sometimes.
Yeah, that can be the hardest thing.
Yeah. And the way that I eat, and I also feel that it has a huge part in terms of how I think. So going back to that love and that gratitude, we drain ourselves of our energy when we think negatively. And if we think positively and we put that practice into our everyday and try to just maintain that, it's amazing the energy that you will have.
It can be as simple as like a simple gratitude practice, like writing down 2 or 3 things you're grateful for every day, because that could reframe your thinking, where you could have had a terrible day and then you reframe and think about the little things that were good, and all of a sudden you've shifted your whole way of thinking.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I try to focus on. It's just amazing. And of course, as a director there, I'm really trying to help my team do the same thing so that we're all living that positive culture. It's just how I want to live, and again, it took me a long time to figure this out. And now that I have, I'm like, y'all got to come this way, because it is good. I mean, it's the juice right here. This is the good water.
The juice.
It is. It's the good water that you want. It's that delicious juice. Like, this is where it's at. if you want to live a joyful life, you got to change the way you think, because it will give you so much energy. You will just, oh my gosh. I mean, I feel like I'm just this, flower that's ready to blossom every day. I'm a student every day. I soak it in. And, I have my tough moments. I don't want to pretend that, everything's so perfect. No, but because I think this way, I'm able to deal with the issues. That's where that resilience comes in. I'm able to deal with stuff when it does come my way.
Yeah. And your motto is living a lifestyle that feels good.
Yeah.
That's your phrase that pays right there. And it sounds like, I think you spoke to what really is key to that, and mindset, and, positive mindset is really super fundamental. It sounds like, to sparking everything else to create that lifestyle that feels good.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And, I tell people that feels good. Losing weight through fitness or mindful eating or gaining muscle or, whatever it is, looking good in your skinny jeans. I mean, that's great. That's actually a side benefit.
Yes.
That's a side benefit to lifestyle that feels good. You got to feel good. Like how can we give back to each other if we don't feel good?
If what you're doing makes you feel good, you're going to want to do more of it. That's why people overeat, because for a brief moment, it feels good. That's why you smoke, because for a brief moment, it feels good, but creating this lifestyle where you feel good all the time, that's also going to spark the desire to do more of that.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's the habit change. That's the deep stuff.
Yeah. And, in talking about getting this story out there, I too have to have those little conversations. My athletics and how I try to live my life, they're so parallel. I use very similar techniques. So when I was saying, I'll ask myself in a race, do you feel okay? Are you hurt? Is your stomach upset? These little things. And you're like, no, actually I'm fine. Are you being lazy? Okay, maybe a little. Okay, go. I do the same thing with the other part of my life. I use the same techniques. Hey, are you feeling okay? What's holding you back from sharing this information? Don't you feel pretty good? Your energy's fine. Yeah, I feel great. Okay, let's go.
So little check-ins with yourself.
Little check-ins, because they work. Because we have these voices that naturally want to tell us, hey, you need to chill out. Hey, this is too much. Why are you doing all that? We have all that negative stuff that does come against us. And, we have to take control of that and be sensible. I mean, there are times where you do have to, relax. And I do that. If I'm going this weekend on Saturday, when I do that 23 mile run, you better believe after I have a nice, Epsom salt bath that I'm going to chill out on the sofa for a little bit.
I hear you.
Yeah, with a good meal, and I'm going to relax. But that part of taking care of myself then brings that energy back. And I'm able to check in, go, okay, you ready to go? We got a few things we need to do. We got some, whatever it is. And it just kind of keeps that going. And also one other thing I want to add to that is that I'm noticing that when I pay more attention to being in the moment, I actually accomplish a lot more.
Go on about that.
So if I have some tasks I want to do, let's say I want to do a blog post. If I focus and I stay in the moment of doing that blog post, that's what I'm trying to accomplish. It gets accomplished thoroughly, beautifully. It gets posted. It's done. I get to move on to the next thing, whatever it is. If I'm trying to do multiple things at one time, and I'm a great multitasker, but if I shift my focus, then I end up not accomplishing all these important things that I need to, because I'm not in the moment. I'm not in the moment. I'm not taking advantage of being in the moment, and therefore I'm not effective.
Yeah. Yeah. I read, there was a book called The One Thing.
I love that book.
Yeah. I love that book because it stuck with me that it's like multitasking in certain ways is a myth, because our brain can really only truly focus on one thing at once. And it's more about prioritizing versus multitasking. And that really, really stuck with me, that it's like, what is the one thing that I need to get done right now? And you will, like you said, you'll do it succinctly, you'll do it effectively, and you'll do it beautifully because you're not getting distracted by a million other things. And that can apply, with your training, can apply with your racing, and it can apply with your work. And I think that's super useful knowledge.
Yeah.
In your book, you give advice about the importance of being physically active. And of course, you have taken it to a much higher level. What advice do you have for people who may be around your age, are intrigued about the idea of participating in some sort of endurance sport or running to a higher level? What advice would you have for those people?
I think establishing what they want to do and why is oftentimes really helpful. A lot of times I think we jump into things and we really just have no idea why. And then we're always searching for something. So I think sometimes stepping back and going, hey, I've always done 10Ks. I want to do half marathon, let's just say. Cool. You can do that. Are you wanting to do it just because it sounds fun? I mean, that's fine too, but maybe just know, it just sounds fun. And I've always wanted to do it. You don't need a big reason, but I think that that's really cool. To do it just because your buddies are doing it might not be as satisfying. And that's why I typically make it about, why do you want to do it? Don't do it because everybody, else wants to do it. But the other thing I really just want to encourage people is that you can do on the other side. You can do way more than you think. As I said before, I never thought I was a runner, much less doing 50-mile races. I mean, seriously, I never, ever thought that. And people can do way more than they want. If they're finding pleasure out of it, if it's exciting, it's giving them a lifestyle they love, they get to share things. I say go for it. Get with a coach if you want one. There's plenty of information online too, but you do want to take care of yourself along the way. And I also, I like to encourage people, if let's say you're doing 10Ks and you want to start improving your pace. Well, there's always, typically there are running groups around. I would say, hey, you need to start doing track once a week. Mm-hmm. You've got to do, when I am not able to do my track work, my pace totally declines. I have to get certain types of work in. So you want to, to me, you want to kind of know, okay, am I just doing the race to finish the race? That's fine. Totally fine. If that's your deal, that's fine. Or I've been doing this race, but I want to do it faster. Then you got to start to think a little bit more about how am I going to accomplish that? Oh, I need to do some work on the track. Do I want to coach? If you can afford a coach, get one. I've worked with numerous coaches that have taught me so much, and I'm now able to coach other people because of all my experience. Get a coach, get into it, enjoy it, bring the family along, make it a family event. And there's so many ways to incorporate it into your life and really enjoy it. And get, again, if you want to get better, you can get better, stronger, faster, run longer. All of these things are possible as long as you take care of yourself along the way and you're just smart about it. You don't want to overdo it. You don't want to, I think that it's pretty typical that if you're in, this 23-mile run is my longest run of this training session for this 50K. And I worked my way up to that. Even though I'm always training for ultras, I have my periods of time where I back off. Mm-hmm. I work up to it, and I would never add more than 10% mileage each week. That's how I was able to stay injury-free and enjoy the process.
Yeah.
You got to kind of think about, there's a lot of different factors, and I just say do a little research online, get with a coach, but think about what is it you're wanting to do? Is it just the event itself, or you actually want to take an event you've been doing and you actually want to get faster at that event, or you want to learn something new altogether? I mean, I think they're all amazing. And I always tell people, you do not have to go do 50 miles like I do. I love it. But if your thing is yoga, I mean, that's fine. Move, right? Just move. Get those endorphins. Enjoy it. It's going to give back to you in so many ways.
Yeah. Do what lights you up, whatever it is.
Yeah. And don't be, I'm so sorry, Robert. I wanted to add, and don't be afraid. Because if you put the time in and you go through the process, You have nothing to fear. Fear of jumping, being pushed off a cliff is very different. That's real. Okay. But fear of just not accomplishing something, a lot of that fear, which I talk about in my book, you probably remember, it's not real. And we allow that to hold us back from doing things we want to do. So gosh, I say, go for it. Get advice, seek it out, because this life is short and we need to live it.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. And, you covered a lot of things there, but what it really goes back to fundamentally is like, start with your why. Like have a strong why as to why you want to do what you're going to do. And then you can bring on all those other pieces based on what exactly you're trying to accomplish.
Right. Absolutely. Yes. It's a beautiful process.
Yes. So as we get ready to wrap up, do you have one parting piece of wisdom that you've learned in your competitive journey, your life journey, that you would like to share with our listeners today?
I do. Probably many, but I'm going to stick with this one because that's what you asked for. And that is, not trying is not an option.
Yes. Not trying is not an option.
Not trying is not an option, because you can ask yourself, have you ever been upset for trying something? We've been more upset for not trying something than for trying it. Trying it and maybe it didn't turn out the way you wanted or whatever. That's fine, because that's the learning process. Like you said about failure earlier, that's part of it. We are students. If we have the mindset of being a student for the rest of our lives, you will enjoy life so much more. I love thinking this way. I wish I'd thought this way much sooner in my life, but hey, now nobody has an excuse, right? They know the secret.
It's never too late to start thinking this way.
It's never too late. And so the not trying is not an option when I'm, working with, guests and clients and teaching and teaching my lifestyle wellness. I really try to share that not trying is not an option. And it just totally then keeps it on the table,
Yeah. The only regret comes from not doing something, not trying something.
Yeah.
Anything that comes from the trying, whether it is failure, mistakes, that's all learning opportunities. That all can help you get better at what you're trying. But if you don't try, that's the only place that regret comes from.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Thank you so much for that. And finally, if someone wants to learn more about you and connect with you, how can they do that? KyraOliver.com or yourownutopia.com. They go to the same website. So Kyra is KyraOliver.com. Everything is on there, and I would love to hear from people. If people have any ideas, suggestions, or they just want to chat, I mean, I'm up for it. I am here to hopefully make somebody's life better. Yes. And you dropped so many bombs on this show, like great knowledge bombs and helpful information. And I don't know how anyone could come away from this episode not learning something, not being inspired, not feeling a little better about their lives. Like that's,
thank you.
We're putting good into the world, and that is what you did today. Kyra, thank you so much for being on The Seasoned Athlete. I love that you're devoting your life to helping and inspiring others to live a lifestyle that feels good. It's a simple concept, but it's so important. We should all strive to do that every day. Congrats on all of your achievements.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for what you are doing to help everybody live healthy and happy lives.
It is my pleasure. Thank you so much, Robin.
All right, seasoned athletes, here are my top 3 takeaways from Kyra Oliver. Number 1, joining an athletic community can be transformational. As Kyra said, when she joined a running community, she found people who provided her unconditional love and understanding at a time when she truly needed it. She found people who remembered what it was like to be new at the sport and provided a supportive and welcoming environment for her. If you're feeling alone in your life, you can find people who will lift you up in an athletic community. Number 2, mistakes are always an opportunity to learn. I personally use this one all the time. There are no mistakes, only learning opportunities. So don't fear making mistakes. Don't fear failure. Embrace them. Be grateful for them. They will only make you better. And number 3, adopt an I get to attitude in your life. Kyra said, I get to be 52 right now. When she has a tough race, she still understands that she gets to experience that suffering. Being alive and healthy is a privilege that not everybody has. So no matter what is happening in your life, no matter how old you are, no matter how difficult your workout was today, how challenging your workday was, remember that you get to experience all of that. This little language change can shift your entire perspective. Thanks again to Kyra Oliver. You can learn more about her and get her book, 8 Ways of Being, at kyraoliver.com. Thank you for listening to the Seasoned Athlete Podcast. The music you heard in this episode is from someone who knows that music is a big part of a life that feels good, Jason Achilles. Learn more about him at jasonachilles.com. You've been asking for Seasoned Athlete shirts, and now they're here. Go to seasonedathlete.me and click on Shop to see our selection of tees, tanks, sweatshirts, water bottles, and more. Shop now and proudly own your status as a seasoned athlete. Do you know of someone who would make a great guest on this show? Or do you have an inspirational story to share? Shoot us an email, seasonedathlete@gmail.com. And remember, you can help bring inspiration to more people by subscribing, sharing, and leaving a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Now go on out and embrace your extraordinary, my fellow seasoned athletes, because you so can.